Function with Purpose Podcast. All things health, wellness, fitness, and education through the physical therapy perspective. I am Dr. Amy Bullock, owner and founder of Fortress Physical Therapy. Fortress PT is here to serve the Charlotte metro area by highlighting the importance of how and why physical therapy should be a part of your health and wellness lifestyle. Here we go. Welcome to Season 9, Episode 3 of the Function with Purpose podcast. Dr. Amy here with you guys today. Thank you for joining in. Today's subject. I hate to put labels on things, but I think this perhaps gives the public, you all listening, a good comparison of things. Today's topic, we are going to talk about inflammation. The good inflammation versus the bad inflammation. So, what is inflammation? Why does the body have to go through it? When does it become bad? And I'm going to tell you a little story. Talking with a patient a while back, not a patient, actually an athlete at the gym. She's not a patient of mine, but I noticed in the classes that she was partaking in that she constantly had something on her right elbow to help mitigate some issues. So, inflammation. So, from the physical therapy perspective, inflammation due to a possible injury or perhaps a possible cut or something. Maybe someone sustained an abrasion on their arm. Maybe they fell off their bike and you see this immediate, scrape on the arm type deal. And then on the flip side, perhaps you might be partaking in a fitness class and you do a lot of repeated motions over time that eventually the pain starts to supersede, i.e. the inflammation starts to supersede and cause more symptoms to stay around longer. So the whole concept of inflammation is a good thing. Inflammation is good. So when the body goes through an inflammatory response, perhaps it is from an injury, an acute injury, or maybe a disease or sickness. Inflammation has to happen in order for healing to occur properly. And there's different phases of inflammation. I'm not going to talk about that here on this particular episode, but when inflammation initially happens, that is a good thing. So the body, quote unquote, starts to heal itself. So it starts sending these chemicals to the area that is injured or hurt or whatever the case may be, where these inflammatory components help clean things up. They speed up the process of healing. Now, when someone sustains an injury of some sort, maybe they kind of irritated their elbow during a lot of pull-up motions, and maybe doing a lot of pulling motions over time has led to this kind of like chronic ache and pain into the elbow. This is going to lead into my story, interacting with an athlete at the gym. If we don't intervene earlier rather than later in that moment, then the body starts to develop this chronicity of inflammation. This is where the bad, quote unquote, bad inflammation starts to be experienced. where there's constant symptoms. So a while back, I was interacting with an athlete at the gym, and I noticed, I'm like, hey girl, like what is up with your elbow? You have tape on it, you have tape going up and down your shoulder, then it's crossed at the elbow, like clearly something's going on. Like, are you in physical therapy? What are you doing? I like that you're still showing up for class, but I've noticed that anytime there's pulling motions within that particular workout of the day during CrossFit class, that you still kind of continue to do that. Like, what's going on? And she's like, oh, Amy, it's just, I'm in physical therapy, but whatever we're doing there, we're doing a lot of exercises, and, you know, they're doing some like soft tissue massage on the area, and it's just, nothing's getting better. I'm doing all of the things and nothing's getting better. So I'm like, well, how long have you been doing physical therapy? She's like, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 6 weeks or something, but nothing is freaking making me better. I'm like, well, then perhaps exercise isn't the appropriate form of treatment. And what I mean by that is that exercise directed to that area, i.e. the outside of the elbow, because that's where she was talking about her pain and discomfort in this like little inflammation area, that doing these specific wrist motions that translate up into near the elbow joint isn't working for her, right? So she was explaining some things, some movements that she was doing, and I'm like, well, you know, if that hurts, why would you continue to do it? She's like, I guess I really never thought about that. And I said, well, there's plenty of ways to kind of train and maneuver around gripping motions throughout your daily routine, as well as within a CrossFit class, right? She's like, oh, well, my current PT never really told me anything about that. I'm like, well, and just kind of coughed, and, you know, we were just kind of laughing a little bit. But anywho, I'm like, well, if this has been going on for a couple months, like, have you tried to self-soothe a little bit? Maybe perhaps try some either Advil, ibuprofen type deal that can help with inflammation from what I call a chemical component or a chemical environment, right? Because we can't see exactly what's going on underneath or in the elbow joint. But the way that she's describing it to me, I thought, if physical therapy isn't working for her, and whatever she's doing with the current physical therapist isn't working at the moment, then maybe it's not what we call, from a PT perspective, mechanical issue, meaning the way the arm moves and is flexible and how it bends and throughout your daily routine, right? Mechanical. It's just like a door hinge, how things move. Perhaps now she's in this kind of, quote, bad inflammatory phase where things are just stuck. And the true process of inflammation can't continue forward throughout its phases. So I said, you know, there might be an actual, like, chemical issue that's going on. You're, like, stuck in this phase of inflammation that for some reason your body can't surpass. And she's like, oh, well, no, I mean, I've never really, like, taken any medicine. I'm like, well, sometimes you might need maybe an actual prescription from a physician, maybe a steroid dose pack, right? To help with inflammation that we can't see. Or you might try on your own, Advil or ibuprofen or something like that, where you kind of do your own self-taper. She's like, oh, well, I never really thought about that. Thanks for just informing me. And then, we kind of talked a little bit more and more, and I'm like, well, you probably shouldn't do a lot of pulling or isolation elbow stuff, but, I'm not your physical therapist, so, you might just want to talk to your current PT about this and let him or her know like how you're feeling in the moment and when you're in CrossFit class. So, needless to say, I haven't followed up with her or even spoke to her in passing, but it just sounded like when someone is in this kind of like chronic stage where it's just like this chronic ache, pain, and strain that is just, maybe the intensity varies throughout the day, and physical therapy is not working, and maybe you did try maybe some oral medication that's prescribed by a physician. I think an important thing that we overlook and forget to think about too, not only making modifications with exercise, but we have to look back at our buckets. And if you've been listening a lot on my previous podcasts and previous seasons, I'm talking about our health, wellness, fitness, and recovery buckets. First and foremost, sleep. How's your sleep? Are you consistent? Are you waking up at night? Is the elbow, in this example, waking you up? Right? What can we do to better your sleep quality? Nutrition, i.e. water. Are you hitting at least half of your body weight in ounces? Are you adding a little bit of an electrolyte, sodium, potassium enhancement, maybe Gatorade or something like that? Or I like Liquid IV, and I like G2 Gatorade or Gatorade Zero. So how's that? Are you even tracking that? Because you don't know what you don't know. As far as nutrition goes, protein. How much protein are you hitting per day? Are you getting about the same amount of grams in body weight? So I'll use me for an example. I weigh about 135, 140 pounds, just depends. Am I hitting that each day in protein in grams? Right? Because protein is the building blocks and helps with inflammation. Right? Movement. I know you're coming to CrossFit class, but perhaps we need to take a step back, not do a significant amount of high intensity interval quick contractions, but incorporating some zone 2 or just general cardio. Slow it down, slow your roll, right? And then one of the major other buckets is stress management. Is there something else that is causing you more stress than expected? Maybe it is job related. Maybe it's family oriented. Maybe it's your son, daughter, dog, aunt, uncle, significant other, right? All of those things that, if we take a step back, can help promote getting out of this quote unquote bad inflammation phase. Now, it's not going to happen like that, but we have to zone out and take a step back. And, if physical therapy is not helping, or if oral medication isn't helping for my lateral elbow pain, what are these other buckets that you can look into that perhaps need to be a little bit more of a priority? So just choose one bucket. So the good inflammation. Inflammation is good. Inflammation has to happen when an injury or disease, sickness, or bacteria or something occurs within our body, right? Like, inflammation is a good thing, but there are moments in time where we kind of get stuck in this inflammation phase, and the actual inflammation timeline can't go through its appropriate steps. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have to zone out. Is this a mechanical issue? Meaning movement, how something moves, movements that you incorporate into your exercise routine or strength classes. Is that the thing that can be contributing to what's going on and keeping you in this bad inflammation phase? Or is it something underneath that we can't see, right? I.e. a chemical component to this. Maybe you do need some medicine. Maybe we need to take that more aerial view out and step back and be like, okay, my buckets. Let me reassess my buckets. What can I control? What is lacking? What do I need to fill up a little bit more on? So, if this kind of sounds like you and you're like, man, my current physical therapy, like, it's just not working, but man, my physical therapist hasn't even talked to me about this stuff. I had no idea. I think from the patient perspective, ask questions. Even though this story I told you, this current athlete is not an actual patient of mine, I still want to help people. I don't hold the Sparkle Pager for everybody. But who knows, maybe she'll seek out help from me and be like, who knows, I should have done this a long time ago. Okay, great, cool, that's awesome. But you don't know what you don't know. So don't be afraid to ask questions from the patient perspective. All right. Thanks for hanging in there, and we will see you guys on the next episode. That's a wrap for today's episode, Function with Purpose podcast. For more information on this episode, please check out the show notes within your podcast app. Be sure to subscribe, like, share, or drop your comments and questions below. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Thanks for the listen. Pursuit, precision, purpose.